Well, I agree with everything the commissioner said. Any questions? People think we only agree on the Eagles. Really, how wrong they are. The question really is, when I was asked about the state of the city, what is the state of the city? And I reposed it to say, what is the state of the city compared to other cities in central Pennsylvania? The state of the city is excellent, but that's grading on a bell curve. Economic development of the city, public and private, in the last 5 years, has been a little over $1 billion in the city of Lancaster. $250 million of economic development is underway right now, isn't underway. Probably half of it's in the conceptual stage, which those of you who are developers know, maybe not. But the other half is underway. So we figure about $100 to $125 million of development is going on right now. The Fulton Bank's decision to expand its downtown facility was a great vote of confidence in downtown, a great vote of confidence. And not only to have a building that's been vacant for a substantial period of time improved by tearing it down and building another building, but also to bring 200 or 300 additional workers downtown over time is certainly going to have a ripple effect on the rest of downtown, on the retail, the restaurants, everything else that goes into downtown. Investment expansion hasn't been confined to downtown. I'll give you examples of stockyards, which really required us to hold out against a big box store when you couldn't put a big box store in there and just say no. And if there's a lesson in the second block of North Queen Street, it's that if it's something that might immediately look like a benefit, but in the long run is going to turn into a big empty box or a big problem, just say no. Just hold off. And I was told at one point that, well, if you keep saying no to projects out there, nothing might end up happening. My response was, nothing might be better than something. It's again shown by the second block of North Queen and the problems that have come from it. The Kemp's food site, the development there at the Best Buy store, the Lowe's, the Armstrong sites are prime examples. James Street improvement, the city did a study, and the future development you'll probably see will be not big, huge projects, though, but the Fulton Bank certainly is. There'll be more infill, recognizing the fact that there's opportunities here and there for individuals or smaller developments to infill around the city and work around the city, and that's the direction we'll be going in the next 2, 3, 4 years. We've also seen a growth in the arts and tourism as economic drivers. The F&M Local Economy Center said the arts contributed, Tom, you said 39 million, I had 75 million, but either way, yeah, it's spending in over 1,000 jobs in and around the city of Lancaster. If you want your kids to stay in Lancaster County, and if you want the people that are graduating from college to stay in Lancaster, you have to provide entertainment and arts opportunities. You have to provide a cosmopolitan atmosphere in the city. That's the way we're going to hold it here. I was at a seminar that the Federal Reserve gave, and one of the topics was how to keep the middle class in the cities. And basically it was appeal to the 20 to 30-year-olds. Have them be happy in the city, and they'll stay in the area. So we all have something in the arts. Well, the Convention Center Hotel apparently is a success, and it's interesting, we're attracting more and more visitors from around the world. During the summer, usually once a week, I'd see a couple with a map and go up and say, you need directions, you want some help. I think 3 or 4 Australian couples. I don't know why we're becoming a site for Australians to come. French couples, German, Californians, which are foreigners. It was interesting, the French couple, I gave them directions, and the woman said to me in very broken English, what do you do, what kind of work do you do? And I said, I'm the mayor of the city. And they all went to went like this. I said, Premier of Lancaster, Prime Minister of Lancaster. And finally her husband said, Habla Espanol, and I said, no, a little bit. And I said, Alcalde, and he translated that into French, and then they all understood. So that's what kind of city we're becoming, where I have to speak Spanish to a Frenchman who can reinterpret for Spanish and tell him what I do. More importantly, people living in the city are enjoying better neighborhoods and better amenities. The realtors, I meet regularly with the board of realtors, and they provide information to me, indicate the property values are holding or going up in the city, and a couple of realtors who admittedly specialize in city real estate told me it's keeping their head above water, or has kept their head above water, the fact that they can sell city properties. I was at the opera a few weeks ago, and a couple beside me, we were talking, and then they had the intermission, and someone must have told the woman that I was the mayor. She came back and said, are you the mayor? And I said, yes. And she said, we moved here 7 years ago, and we bought outside the city, and it was such a mistake. We wish we do everything in the city. We come to the city. We wish we had bought in the city. And I said to my wife afterwards, do you think the mayor of Harrisburg or York or Reading gets people saying that to them? No. So it's happening, right? Cleaner and safer streets, as Tom indicated. We're spending millions improving our neighborhood parks, bringing them along. We have an overall park plan. Code enforcement, we have zero tolerance for problem landlords, and we're not just mouthing that, we're doing that. The General Assembly recently gave us a piece of legislation that we're looking at to further enforce these things. One final thing, we're trying to use business principles. People say, why don't you run the government like a business? I'll tell you, if your business was organized like the government, you'd be out of business. But efficiency, productivity, we're trying to work on. In addition, we're looking at merit pay, that your salary will be determined by your evaluation, which to you all probably seems pretty simplistic, but it's revolutionary in local government. But the challenges remain. As Tom said, the chamber and other chambers have joined together to begin to deal with these problems, and it's a pleasure dealing with business people, because all you have to do is tell them facts like over 1/3 of our budget is spent on fringe benefits. And they go, what? How do you do that? And we don't. But a few things that the chambers and others are addressing. As Scott said, over-reliance on property taxes on police, fire, schools, public works, county government. This doesn't work. It doesn't work. And taxing property is the equivalent of taxing a savings account. Not the interest you earn on the savings account, the money you have in it. The more money you put in it, the more tax you pay. If you let your property become dilapidated, fine, you'll be reevaluated, reappraised, and you'll pay less. We've got to get a menu, as Scott said, of taxes that can be imposed, and we said the same thing. If we impose them and people don't like them, fine, they can vote us out of office. Give us a shot at it at least. So I'm looking forward to working with you on that. Public safety contract arbitration system has to be reformed, and the Chamber has taken some pretty radical positions on this. It said that we should consider the ability of the municipality to pay. Your response is, well, you don't. You should have neutral arbitrators. You mean you don't? You should institute a legitimate appeal process for review. These things are all common sense. Again, the chambers have all put that forth. We have to engage in a meaningful discussion of health care and how pensions can be adjusted. The chambers recommended a novel idea. How about 401c3s for new hires? We have a defined benefit plan. It's bad in Lancaster. It's not nearly as bad as it's going to be in the school districts. And for example, Pittsburgh, I think, has 20% or 25% the money necessary to pay its defined benefit plan. That's what kind of shape they're in. We're in the 70s, but we're in good shape compared to most. Fragmented government at the local level must lead to shared services, again recommended by the Chamber. And the county and the city are doing it right now in IT. We're working on the bugs, but we pay them money. We get services for less money than we had to when we paid our own individual. And quite frankly, we get better services from the county than we got doing it ourselves. Some barriers have to be removed for investing in municipalities. Pennsylvania is the only state that has an income tax that does not have a tax for historic or an exemption for historic tax credits, a deduction for historic tax credits. Only state in the Northeast that has an income tax that doesn't have that. One study from Maryland indicated that they got $6 to $8 back for every $1 that they gave in historic tax credits. We got to start thinking about that kind of thing in Pennsylvania. So now, what does the future hold? Well, I think really the future is, the better question is whether we have the political courage to do what appears to be obvious to the Chamber, to the mayors, and just about every entity that deals with it. The federal government's dealing with a huge deficit. They won't be funding the states. The state has a huge deficit. And I'm concerned that in the next few years, the tendency will be to mandate services. We're not going to raise taxes, but you provide the service. Where do we get the money from? Well, unfunded mandates, I think we have to be very careful that that isn't the way that we address these problems, that we get serious about going after the problems, but we don't just shift the burden down. I'm afraid that no tax pledges can end up meaning really taxes raised at the local level. And I hope that doesn't happen, because tax shifting is not tax cutting. It's not reform in politics. And I would hope that in the future, as we enter into really a very difficult period for the federal, state, and local governments, we actually engage in some meaningful reform and not just a lot of polemics. So that's all I have, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you.